Again, thank you very much for being here. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you very much for staying tuned. Now we can get started. Today we're revisiting a conversation we had a while back. It's titled Ojukwu stabbed Biafrans, but they blame Awolowo. Now, this particular topic is a very emotionally charged topic, and I mean, it's understandable. It's a topic that one has to be very careful because you have to be able to hold on to your humanity while, communicating the truth at the same time. And so it's important for me to say we're discussing history, okay? And in discussing history, there'll be things that are not so cool or nice, okay? But it's historical, so we talk about it. And we're not having a conversation to spite anybody, but we need to set the record straight. Because for Yoruba people, especially in Nigeria, we've been subjected to decades of propaganda. And because of our relationship with our neighbors and the fact that a lot of people from other parts of Nigeria live in our region, we've come, and of course, because we are also hospitable, I mean, that's one of our heritage as a people. So we tend to show compassion and then we listen to people's story because we want them to feel welcome amongst us. I think people have taken that for granted by going beyond just telling us their story to actually shopping for sympathy and essentially trying to get us to show them pity. And the funny thing about it is that it doesn't just stop at a sorry. It's more like it becomes leverage essentially for folks to be able to get away with whatever they want to do. And we're supposed to just listen and not say anything because, of course, we're not tribalistic and all of that nonsense. I use that word nonsense because that's the cleanest word I can use in conversations like this. But it's absolutely ridiculous that we have to pander and just, take everything hook, line, and sinker because we don't want to appear to be tribalistic or bigoted. By the way, tomorrow I'm going to be talking about something I saw on Twitter. It's been what's the word now? It's been going on it's been trending for a couple of days. Certain people who have spent years denigrating Yoruba women, especially, and only for people to discover the fact that the person is actually, was in a relationship with a Yoruba man and has a kid from that relationship. And I'm going to be talking about it from that to say that we are used to. What's the point? These ones don't suffer. If you insult them, any small thing, they go cry. But me, doesn't really matter. I can take it. It doesn't really do much to me. But the thing is that perhaps you stand the risk of actually having those jokes become the truth of your history, truth of whatever it is that the people are about. And even though you know those things to be jokes, your kids may not know. The crazy thing is that the people who thought those things were jokes were actually our grandfathers. And even they, at some point, were like, wait, though. There's something ongoing, there's something else going on here. And so it's important for us to begin to do what our grandfathers and our fathers did to set the record straight so that we are able to move through life with our heads held high, show compassion to people, but don't let anybody blackmail you with nonsense, and don't let anybody make you apologize for something you are not responsible for. Okay, having said that, I'm going to read the description of this video. Before I do that, let me welcome folks on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us today. Lovely to have you here on YouTube and on Facebook. We're discussing Ojukwu stabbed Biafrans, but they blame Awolowo. You're going to have a great time today. We're listening to a replay that we had a while back, and I'm sure it's going to be enjoyable to you. All right, for folks on YouTube, please like and share the live. It helps, helps us, get other people to come in to see what we're doing. So please, let's like, let's share, and also subscribe on YouTube. For those of us on Facebook, please like and share as well. And thanks again to folks on TikTok, Abi71 Koboko. Thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate what you do every time because these things help beyond words. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. All right. If you're on TikTok, please click on the heart icon above my image to join the team. If you're already a member of the team, please drop your heart to me. Let's drop gifts. Let's try and push the live together to the FYP. And also, you can give gifts while the stuff plays. These things help the algorithm to recommend our live to other people. Okay. Thank you very much for your support. That said, let's get on with the topic. Let's get it on. Okay, just assuming it's a worship song. All right, Ojukwu starved Biafrans, but they blame Awolowo, the great civil war lie. I'm going to read the description on YouTube. This, by the way, is a video on our YouTube channel. I'm going to read the description, then we'll listen to the audio. The starvation in Igbo land during the Civil War remains a tragic episode that we must ensure is never repeated in Nigeria. The images of malnourished children and the heavy toll of kwashoko were truly terrible and are moments that should be remembered with deep sobriety. While the world saw the pictures, the actual mechanics of how this crisis unfolded are often buried under a mountain of propaganda designed to maintain a victim narrative. For decades, many have attempted to turn Chief Obafemi Awolowo into a villain by quoting only half of his famous statement regarding starvation as a weapon of war. The popular half quote often used to demonize him is simply, starvation is a weapon of war, quote unquote, starvation is a weapon of war. However, the full and honest context of Awolowo's words reveals a much more strategic reality, as he actually said, quote, all is fair in war and starvation is one of the weapons of war. I don't see why we should feed our enemies fat in order for them to fight harder. End of quote. He was clearly addressing the logistical absurdity of feeding enemy soldiers who were actively fighting the Nigerian state. It is important to note that the federal government was initially sending food to the southeast, but those trucks were consistently hijacked and diverted by Biafran soldiers who ate the supplies themselves, while the civilian population suffered. The narrative of an external blockade being the sole cause of suffering is further challenged by the fact that Ojukwu repeatedly refused a mercy corridor for food and medicine. He kicked against land corridors because crates carrying food were being inspected by Nigerian forces, who discovered that Biafra was smuggling in weapons hidden within food supplies. To bypass these essential inspections, Ojukwu insisted on airlifts, which naturally limited the amount of aid that could reach the people. This suggests a calculated decision to prioritize the smuggling of arms over the survival of the masses. It appears that Ojukwu was more interested in using his people as propaganda tools to elicit pity from the global community than in actually feeding them. Even the Biafran public relations representative, Robert Goldstein, was forced to write a public letter in 1968 begging Ojukwu to allow his own people to eat. We must speak the truth about these events to counter the propaganda that fuels a damaging victim mentality. Laying every woe at the feet of Awolowo and go on, while absolving the internal leadership of blame, is not only unfair, but detrimental to the self-esteem of the Igbo people. Here is Ojukwu starved Biafrans, but they blame Awolowo. Enjoy. Let's read some things in the comment section. We're discussing history. If you guys are triggered, I see a lot of nonsense on the comment section, and I see a lot of great things as well, because we have great people here. But for those of you just typing and insulting, understand that you don't have to be here. Nobody's tying you to this place. You don't have to be here. As a matter of fact, you are not even my target audience. Anybody that comes here to insult me, I don't care about you that much. I'm glad you are here. Hopefully you learn something, but you don't really matter that much, just to be clear. But all this insult, I don't know how to insult people, but I just say one word. Kiki Orokoni. You might find yourself calling your father. Let's read some comment section on YouTube. Okay, so thank you for your stuff, Dan Sledge, that came up with the fact that we should not let Igbo secede because they will be landlocked. I think Igbo should be able to choose it. Now, here's the crazy part. Why are you insulting me in the comment section when I'm saying that you have a right to secede? Guys, this tells you that they don't want to go. I'm not even saying push them out. They are bad. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they should be able to decide. They should be given that right. And you are insulting me. That means you know. If they give you 1 billion opportunities, you will not take one. You will suffer. You will saw something of Falonja. Let me read something here, Jerry. New Era says Biafra is starting mass starvation, is staring mass starvation in the face. Don't tell anybody. Don't. New Era says Biafra is staring mass starvation in the face. Don't tell anybody. This, in fact, it looks like everything you say now. I'm going to have to be reading books to respond, but I won't read. I'll just speak because of time. You see, this mass starvation you wrote in the comment section. If people only knew what happened, right? When Ojukwu was giving his interview to Frederick Forsyth, he gave an interview on in 1970. Excuse me. It was the last quarter of 1970, and in that interview, he made it very clear. He didn't think about food. There was no strategic plan for feeding his people. No plan. The crazy part is that these clowns insulting me here will never see anything wrong in to feed them. I mean, we do productions now. Productions, film, stage, actors, singers, even rehearsals. We have to think of how they're going to eat. May God bless Numa. Numa is in the UK now. Numa, God bless you. I just remember that now. My heart just blessed her. Because anyway, she would make sure that whatever had to be done to make sure that the actors and the singers and musicians had something while we're rehearsing. You have to think of feeding the rehearsals, so let alone the production itself. What do they eat? You are not going to war. You didn't think of food. You now decided to play the role of Egberi, to cry to the world that your enemy is not feeding you. Meanwhile, the so-called enemy was actually feeding you or feeding the people, but you were taking the food and feeding the soldiers. Read Awolowo's speech during his 1983 campaign at Abeokuta. I think let me see which one I should read first. Let me see which one I should read first. I'll tell you what he said because of time. 1983. Awo said he went to Port Harcourt. I mean, he's saying this in 83, but of course, what he said happened in the 60s. When to Port Harcourt, he went to the east, and some people emaciated, Big Tommy's terrible side. And then he was asking questions. What's happening? They said to him, the food that you are sending, yes, the food got here. When we get it into the eastern region, the soldiers will waylay us and collect the food. Not food as in rice and beans plate of item 70. In case I've not heard about it, item 7 is actually very good. If you're in Nigeria, you should try it out. That's a cool plug. Nice rice and chicken and beef. Anyway, beyond plate and Chicken Republic, food trucks diverted to feed soldiers. I think you're going to be very good. Every court, every palace in the court jester, you are the clown in this conversation. So be here. But I assure you, everything you say, I am going to respond to you. When I respond to you, I will give you historically accurate answers that will probably make you ask your father, where was I? When they tell you, Awo said, it's okay to not, starvation is a weapon of war. What did Awo say? By the way, the man called Achebe, and again, education has nothing to do with this mindset. If you are designed to be a victim, it doesn't matter if you have degrees. You can have degrees like a thermometer, you still be a victim. Achebe was a victim maker, and he was dedicated to his victimhood. He was saying, Awo was said to have said, he's always using that phrase. He was said to have declared, he was said to have said, as if he was a child when Awo said it. He was said to have declared that salvation is a weapon of war. And I said, somebody quoted that thing to me the other day. I said, finish that quote. You must finish it too. Since you have started, you must finish it. He said that he cannot be feeding his enemy fat so that he can fight him. So that's the end of the quote. So the question I have to them is this: who was the enemy? The people or the soldiers? Because Yoruba people will also hear this and start feeling bad. Oh, they say I would not feed them. Why should I feed the soldiers that are fighting me? You have to be dumb to be feeding the army of your enemy. He said he cannot be feeding his dead. Why should he feed them? He will send food to the people. The soldiers will take the food and eat. But you keep sending that food so it can appear good. But the people are suffering. So no food. Meanwhile, why do you need to send anybody food, whether it's your people or the soldiers? Did you not think of how to feed the people before you start the war? Guys, this is not being ruthless or not having compassion. It's actually compassion that's making me talk like this. The people who died should never have died. When you see the sight, and there are some, when you see the video, I have books by Igbo people, Igbo authors describing the gory things. I don't read it here because we've heard a lot about it. They talk about what happened. They don't talk about why it happened. And you see, if you stay with what happened, you're going to gaslight the rest of the country, especially Yoruba people, because we have you as friends. So any small thing, be like, hey, yeah, I see what they did to you. No. What they did is bad though, but how did you get to this level? And why did it happen? Because when you talk about what you are doing is you're trying to get me to show empathy to the point where you cannot get me to do for you whatever you want. Because I want to prove to you that I'm a good person. Personal policy, I don't prove that I'm good to anybody. I believe I'm good. I think I know I'm good. If you think I am good, that's beautiful. If you don't think I'm good, that's also fine. If you want me to prove that I'm good to you, you're not thinking. I don't care. The idea that people have to be proving that they are good. The person telling you to prove that you are good. Oh, good, do. There's Oyoba. Oh, good, do. Aniko Oma Asopo, oh, good. Prove to me that you are good. Why should I prove to you that I'm good? If you don't think I'm good, that's okay. Once you understand the history of what happened, what do? You show compassion to the people that suffered, right? You acknowledge their pains, but you also understand the fact that you don't have to bear responsibility for what Ojukwu should have done. You don't have to bear any guilt. No guilt, no shame, nothing. As a Yoruba person, I owe nobody any apologies about anything in Nigeria. If you think you owe anybody an apology in Nigeria about anything about some war or coup, you have not studied your own history. Once you study it, you'll be balanced. You show compassion, you show love, you will help those you can help, you will do everything you can do, but you will never allow anybody to gaslight you. And nobody will be able to emotionally blackmail you into doing anything in Nigeria. And people that hate what I'm saying right now are the people who are committed to emotionally blackmailing the rest of the country. That's why they hate us, and I don't care. Let's read. New Era says, the funny thing, okay, I didn't finish that statement about starvation. The other thing about starvation is that Ojukwu did not remember that the region didn't even have food to start with. Number two, they didn't even have protein-rich food, which means that before the war, the food that the people ate, particularly protein-rich food, was imported. So what does that mean? Excuse me, please. It means that if you know that before the war, you have to import food, protein, right? You don't have cattle grazing in the southeast. That happens in Ogoja. You don't have fish or fishing. That happens in rivers. You don't plant beans. You have to bring that from the north. So everything you need is from outside your space. Should you not plan how to take care of those things before going to war? To make matters worse, even though those things are coming from outside your space, the money to buy those things, that money is also coming from outside the southeast. Where did I get this information from? Read The Nigerian Civil War by John de Senjo. The money to purchase the protein-rich food came from two sources. One was the agricultural revenue of the revenue of the eastern region, which mostly came from the eastern minority areas. The second was the remittances, which came from Igbos living outside Igbo land. You told all the Igbos to come back home. Who will now be sending money to buy the food you need? Does this mean that you should not show compassion to the people who died of Kwashoko? Of course you should. I mean, if you are human, it's a terrible sight. Like I said, you will cry if you watch those images. And by the way, that's actually what Ojukwu planned. Ojukwu wanted you to feel emotional about those pictures. It was so bad, they were begging him at the time, 1968, August. Robert Goldstein, he wrote an open letter, right, in the Morning Post in Lagos, 1968 August, where he begged Ojukwu, let your people have food, milk, and medicine. He was not allowing food inside because he was taking pictures and using it as content. People don't know how terrible that because you see, when you put the pictures abroad in newspapers and you spread abroad, everybody sees it. People feel some, and you should feel somehow about it. You should feel bad. Why should people suffer like this? But here's the point: even when help arrived, he still refused to allow his people eat. You know, people are looking at like I'm making things up. I have not read a lot of stuff. Let's read this one. You find this thing I'm about to read in a book by okay, I think it's here as well. In Tragedy of Victory by Godwin Abisama. Tragedy of Victory by Godwin Abisama. You find a letter that Robert Goldstein wrote. This was August 17, 1968 in the Morning Post, Lagos. Do you mind if I quickly read it? Open letter of resignation to Odumegwu Ojukwu, published by Morning Post, Lagos, August 17, 1968, from Robert S. Goldstein, Public Relations Representative of Biafra in the United States. As your public relations representative in the United States, it is my distasteful duty to tender my resignation based on the following points. Point 1. In November of 1967, when we met in Umuahia, you and your cabinet were very impressive. You told me of the woes of your little republic, that thousands of people had died, were dying, and more were prepared to die for freedom's sake. You and your cabinet told me you believed what opinion would help your cause if you could get your story across. You expressed the opinion that very few, if any, people in the United States knew of the plight of the Biafrans. You asked me to tell the world that Britain had teamed up with Russia in a conspiracy with the federal government of Nigeria to murder every Igbo in Biafra. You suggested I use my talents to induce the press to write about the Biafran side of the war, as at that time all news came out of Lagos. You will recall I did not take the assignment that day, but stayed on several days before deciding to take that job, to help win the peace. At that time, I said it to you and your cabinet that I was taking the assignment, making it crystal. I'll tell that again. At that time, I said it to you and your cabinet that I was taking the assignment, making it crystal clear. I would try my best to help win the peace, not the war. Point 2. I immediately arranged the first World Press Conference in Biafra inviting the US press as well as journalists and television people from England, France, Switzerland, Africa, and other parts of the globe. This was the first news breakthrough. I arranged regular trips into Biafra for the world press, helped set up stringers and so on, so that your statements and the statements of your cabinet would be heard. At that time, I was absolutely positive you were right, and your cause was a just one in the best interest of the free world and your countrymen. Point 3. Finally, the Republic of Biafra was recognized first by Tanzania, then quickly followed by Gabon, the Ivory Coast, and Zambia. Our public relations work was paying off. World opinion was starting to side with us. Peace talks were arranged at Kampala. I thought that if anyone walked away from the table, it would be the federal government. But to my dismay, it was Biafra that left the conference. After all the fighting and killing, I knew that peace would not come easy, but I could not understand leaving the peace conference until the last point was negotiated and the avenue explored. Point 4. Then urgent telex messages were received from Biafra telling of tens of thousands of people starving in the refugee camps, the villages, the bush country, stating if something went down in the next few months, over 1 million women, children, and aged would be starved to death. I immediately contacted the press, urgently petitioned the State Department for action on their part. Food, medicine, and milk were sent to the only available port open for immediate shipment to Biafra via land routes through federal and Biafra territory, under the auspices of world organizations such as the International Red Cross, among others. Then came the incredible answer from Biafra that land corridors could not be acceptable until there was a complete ceasefire, and that an airlift was the only solution to feed the starving. I'll stop to explain something here. Why did they say land corridors could not be acceptable until there was a complete ceasefire? And that an airlift was the only solution to feed the starving. Why? Because Caritas, particularly, and some other international bodies were smuggling weapons using the land corridors, and Nigerian forces were inspecting those crates. The crates where you're supposed to find food, they were finding guns. You find this in ICRC report, but we're not going to go there now, so I can finish this one. They were discovering guns. So he said, be using it, just airlift the food. Imagine your people are dying. People want to give you food. You're saying that don't come on the road. Go look for aeroplane. Because of course, maybe they're not going to search that as much. You're just going to drop stuff, and then you can take the opportunity to also drop other things. Anyway, let me continue reading. It says, then came the incredible answer from Biafra that land corridors could not be acceptable until there was a complete ceasefire, and that an airlift was the only solution to feed the starving. You then appeared before the various heads of state and representatives of the OAU at Niamey in Niger. I fully expected you at least. I'll take that. 1 second, please. Let me take some water. Nkiruma, do I see your comment on YouTube? Don't worry, I'll read it. Just be patient, Because in nonsense, you can find sense sometimes. And if you don't find sense, we'll import it. I'm very sure you lack it, but I'll oblige you. But just patience, So it says here that they were going to bring food, medicine, and milk. Then came the incredible answer from Biafra that land corridors could not be acceptable until there was a complete ceasefire, and that an airlift was the only solution to feed the starving. So you need food, but now you go say, tell me how I go help you. You then appeared before the various heads of state and representatives of the OAU, that's Organization of African Unity, now African Union, at Niamey in Niger. I fully expected you to at least accept the world. I'll tell you again, I fully expected you to at least accept the world help that was offered your starving throngs. However, you delayed, hoping to use these unfortunates with world sympathy on their side as a tool to further your ambition to achieve war concessions at the upcoming peace talks in Addis Ababa. By the way, everything I read to you from Anthony Nauro earlier in Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by H.M. Green, that was from Addis Ababa. I did not write this so. You delayed, Ojukwu, you delayed hoping to use these unfortunate people who are starving. You delayed hoping to use them with world sympathy on their side as a tool to further your ambition to achieve war concessions at the upcoming peace talks in Addis Ababa. Therefore, you created content. Thus, innocent victims continue to perish needlessly of starvation, the most agonizing death that can befall any living creature. Ask yourself the question, did anybody in Ojukwu household die of starvation? The answer is very simple. No. Not one. These kids had chocolates and toys during the war. But no, you should be angry with me and Awolowo. Point 5. This was incredible to me. I am now convinced that I have been used by you and your cabinet to help in military adventures of your origin, using your starving hordes as hostages to negotiate a victory. If at some later date, following the issuance of this letter, you do concede to allow a mercy land corridor, would you expect me to agree to espouse before the world press the incredible delay of your decision? What explanation could I honestly give for the needless prolongation of this horror? Inconceivable act. I pray this communication may in some small way influence you to move affirmatively, allowing the Mercy Land corridor to be born. It is inconceivable to me that you would stop the feeding of thousands of your countrymen under auspices of world organizations such as the International Red Cross, World Council of Churches, and many more, via a land corridor, which is the only practical way to bring in food to help at this time. It is inconceivable to me that men of good faith would try to twist world opinion in such a manner as to deceive people into believing that the starvation and hunger that is consuming Biafra is a plot of Britain, Nigeria, and others to commit genocide. The propaganda was that Nigeria was starving the people. Britain was starving the people. The reality was that Ojukwu was not allowing the food to come in. This is his own PRO. World Council of Churches, Caritas, those organizations were helping, of course, because he told them that it was going to be a Catholic nation whenever they got the nation. They were helping. And sometimes they also help with weapons. Maybe they thought that was the best way they could help. That's the reason they said no land corridor. How can your people be hungry and they say they want to give you food and you say you can't come on land, go on air, and your people are hungry and you're the leader? So he says, it is inconceivable to me that men of good faith, assuming it was one, would try to twist world opinion in such a manner as to deceive people into believing that the starvation and hunger that is consuming Biafra is a plot of Britain, Nigeria, and others to commit genocide. Point 6. I cannot in all conscience serve you any longer, nor can I be a party to suppressing the fact that your starving thousands have the food, medicine, and milk available to them. It can and is ready to be delivered through international organizations to you. Only your constant refusal has stopped its delivery. To Mr. Collins Obi of the African Continental Bank, all the fees you have given me. Letter of credit number 354, $400,000. So he returned all the money where you don't pay him, 400K USD. But that's not even the end of it. I have sent your representative in New York a bond in the amount of £800,000 that I was holding in your behalf. I have also this date sent the bond of £200,000 issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria back to them for disposal. In other words, even in the midst of this terrible war, Nigeria was still sending money. £200,000. This is apart from the 500,000 pounds they gave him earlier to feed these people. The money went to use to buy guns. Where did I get that one from? It's from that other book, Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by A.H.M. Green, Volume 2. Point 7. I am now convinced that one Nigeria is the only solution to peace. I also call upon you, Mr. Ojukwu, to allow your starving people to be fed. Their well-being is of deep concern to me as well as other right-thinking people of the world. Your acting in the utmost haste in this matter is, in my opinion, the first step toward any lasting peace in your country. Robert S. Goldstein. You know, when it comes to that food thing, I just remembered now that even when the food started coming in, they had a man called Okonkon Ndem on Radio Biafra to tell people that the food was poisoned. He was eating that food though. Awolowo poisoned the food that they sent to them. Why? So they will not eat it. Why? So that the soldiers, and that's why Papa said that you will not find an architect, a pharmacist, a lecturer, a soldier who had kwashoko or who suffered. You know what? I've mentioned that thing a number of times. Let me read something to you from there. This was Awolowo 1983 interview. Reverend guy says, why did Awolowo send money to the enemy? See, that's the funny thing. Awo is a great man. I can't talk about him in past tense. Awo is a great man. And he did great stuff. What can you do to help? How can you reach out to help? You send food, you send money. Awo did for them more than their own people did for them. Yet they curse at Awo. That's why I don't believe in all this. By the way, the things I say in Yoruba, believe me, they can't be translated into English language. But I will speak English for the most part. I promise. Mumbo, let me read to you something here. All right, this was, again, like I said, during the presidential election campaign of 1983. Listen to this. This is from Papa himself. Above all, the ending of the war itself that I'm accused of starving the Igbos, I did nothing of the sort. You know, shortly after the liberation of these places, Calabar, Enugu, and Port Harcourt, I decided to pay a visit. There are certain things which I knew, which you don't know, which I don't want to say here now. When I write my reminiscences in the future, I will do so. Some of the soldiers were not truthful with us. They didn't tell us correct stories and so on. I wanted to be there and see things for myself. Bear in mind that Gowon himself did not go there at that time. It was after the war was over that he donned himself up in various military dresses, Air Force dress, Army dress, and so on, and went to the war-torn areas. But I went, and some people tried to frighten me out of my goal by saying that Adekunle was my enemy and he was going to see to it that I never returned from the place. So I went. But when I went, what did I see? I saw the Kwashoko victims. If you see a Kwashoko victim, you'll never like war to be waged. Terrible sight. In Enugu, in Port Harcourt. Not many in Calabar, but many in Enugu and Port Harcourt. Then I inquired what happened to the food we are sending to the civilians. We were sending food through the Red Cross and Caritas to them. But what happened was that the vehicles carrying the food were always ambushed. Excuse me. All right. We were sending food through the Red Cross and Caritas to them. But what happened was that the vehicles carrying the food were always ambushed by the soldiers. That is what I discovered. And the food would then be taken to the soldiers to feed them. And so they were able to continue to fight. And I said that was a very the food for soldiers. But who will go behind the line to stop the soldiers from ambushing the vehicles that were carrying the food? And as long as the soldiers were fed, the war will continue. And who will continue to suffer? And those who didn't go to the place to see things as I did, you remember that all the big guns, all the soldiers in the Biafran army looked all well fed after the war. It's only the mass of the people that suffered kwashiorkor. You won't hear of a single lawyer, a single doctor, a single architect who suffered from kwashiorkor. None of their children either. So they waylaid the food, they ambushed the vehicles and took the food to their friends and to their collaborators and to their children, and the masses were suffering. So I decided to stop sending the food there. In the process, the civilians will suffer, but the soldiers will suffer most. So if you're looking for the context of Awolowo's statement about starvation, if you're looking for that context, that is the context. And what they usually tell you, they say that all is fair. They say Awolowo said all is fair in war, and starvation is one of the weapons of war. Then they will stop there. But that's not what he said. That's not all he said. They say Awo was a terrible human being. He said all is fair in war, and starvation is one of the weapons of war. Well, that's not the end. He also said, I don't see why we should feed our enemies fat in order for them to fight harder. Any sensible human being, you don't even have to be very bright, any sensible person will understand the fact that the enemy is talking about here, who are fighting, were the soldiers. Soldiers fight, not civilians. Thank you. Soldiers fight, not civilians. So did Awolowo say all is fair in war and starvation is one? All is fair in war and starvation is one of the weapons of war? Yes, it did. But is that the end? No, that's not the end. He also said, and then let me read everything in full. All is fair in war, and starvation is one of the weapons of war. I don't see why we should feed our enemies fat in order for them to fight harder. And I approve the message. My name is Adebusuri, and I approve that message. That is how to think. Why should I be feeding the enemy that's fighting me? And that man was wise. He was very intentional about saying that he cannot be feeding the enemy fatter to fight, so that you not say it's the civilians he's talking about. He's talking about the people who were eating the food and fighting harder. On top of the food where I say I won't give your own people. So Ojukwu did not plan to feed his people. When Nigeria sent food to them, they stole that food and gave it to the soldiers, the architects, the lawyers, people. They had food. And I've read, even in this man's book, there was a country, Chino Achebe. There was nothing wrong with Ojukwu's family. They were fine. He went to their house. He's in the book. They had everything they needed. He and the rest of them, everybody that was useful to his agenda, they were taken care of. And what Papa said here is true. I'll put the video out. When I put this video out, I'm going to put that video of when they surrendered. That's the right word. When they surrendered, led by General Olusegun Obasanjo. When they surrendered to Yakubu Gowon, did you see all of them? Did anybody look like they were sick or they are not eating? All the soldiers, doctors, teachers, lecturers, architects, pharmacists, all those people well fed. You know the crazy part? The people, what's this one? Queen. They say, Ogun buy your papa. Ogun is actually my father. So you mean nothing to Ogun. So it will not mean anything for Ogun to actually. That is Sogi Luroko by. Báwo ló ṣe wá ní bá ọjọ́ lọ? Báwo ló ṣe wá ní bá ilẹ̀ lọ báyìí nsìn? Kí la máa bí ṣe tutù báyìí? Torí what you just said right now, you have actually pronounced nonsense on yourself. So you have to think of what to do to make sure that it doesn't happen to you. You usually just invited death from Ogun with what you wrote. Because Ogun cannot kill his son. So what can I do for you? What can I do for you? What can I do for you? Let's just say you don't know what you are doing. May God forgive you. So Ogun will not touch you. But I can assure you, if you type that thing again, Ogun have fear well. Because you guys will use Ogun and be insulting Yoruba people. Are you dumb? Don't type nonsense again, no. But God has forgiven you. But don't type that thing again, no. I'm laughing now. Words are powerful, no. That's how one stupid girl on Twitter said Tinubu will kick the bucket. She's dead now. She's dead. Young girl. I don't know what happens to these children on social media. I just think you can't say anything. Say Tinubu, when Tinubu is going to kick the pocket, you are in your, these are children. Teenagers, early 20s, you are looking for the death of, that's the funny thing. He's in his 70s, he's still alive and well. The girl is dead. Wishing death on others. And that's the funny thing. You guys will say you are going to church. Queen, I ask you now, if you probably have rosary or have a Bible or say you're Pentecostal or Catholic, you don't have sense. And that's, I used to worry about this thing before, when I was younger, because I'm still young. I used to worry, like, these people go to church. Why are they so bitter? Why are they so angry? That faith, that Christianity, you can't even see it in their life. Cursing, insulting. I've said, if you see YouTube now, it's full of insults. Cursing, insulting people. It's not showing. It's not showing. Your Christianity is not showing. And I'll tell you the funny part. This is what I wanted to say before the clown came. The funny thing is that the children of the lecturers, doctors, pharmacists, architects, the radio hosts, them Ojukwu, them Achebe, them all of those people, Ojukwu, their children, you don't see them getting stupid like these clowns whose fathers actually died. Your fathers died because they were not useful to Ojukwu. The only use that Ojukwu had for your fathers and it has to be your grandfather because you're very small. The only use that Ojukwu had for your grandfathers was content. I did not say it. Robert Goldstein said it. Was taking pictures and sending abroad, and they were dying. And I am actually on their side. I'm on your grandfather's side, not you, Shah, because many of you are ridiculously retarded. But your grandfathers, your grandmothers, I'm on their side. The person who deprived them of food is your own hero. Don't you think you're a bastard? I'm not calling you that, I'm just asking you a question. Don't you think you're a bastard? Because your parents and grandparents died because of the action of a person, but that person, and the person eventually ran away. He ran away like he has always done. He should be competing with Usain Bolt. Anyway, he ran away. He's your hero. Your grandfather that died, you have nothing to, don't you think you're a bastard? I mean, if your grandfather has to choose between me and you, he will choose me. Very retarded humans. Queen, you are not serious. You are very, something is wrong with you. So, one, look for help. Let's go back to the comment section. Today's session is just interesting. I'm not sure I'm going back to the news. I was going to tell you some fantastic things happening in Nigeria. For instance, a lot of young people got grants, right? A few days ago. I was so happy. I was so happy. 50 million naira. Most of them got 50 million naira each. Young guys in different universities, Unilag, if different parts, north, south, east, west, they were there, they got money. Even the ones that were insulting Tinubu, they also got the grant. But the beautiful thing is that the federal government is involved, is helping them. So that's what I wanted to actually get to. Because that's a lot of improvement in what's happening in Nigerian space. Let's read some more comments. All right, back to YouTube. Be like saying I hear them. How do they insult like this? Don't you have parents at home? I won't read your insult though, because if I read it, I will respond to your parents. I don't want to respond to you because your parents, a lot of these people are not properly raised, man. This is sad. Anyway, New Era says the funny thing is that after they are given their own country, they will still do anything to hold on to Nigerian citizenship. That is the problem. They need to be serious about leaving. No, of course, that's the problem. Ojukwu wanted dual citizenship in 1968. Today, tell them to say they want to leave Nigeria, they will not go. The point is just that if they say you should vote, have a referendum to leave Nigeria, and you choose to stay, see, whatever the result of that referendum is, wala. If you go, is wala. If you stay, I never remember Lalude to basically University. in the comment section. And I can't say this in English. Lalo Day had this very funny skit where he was talking to a particular guy. The guy messed up and then he said, Toba Joko, King Kwan share, Toba Didi, share got to one way.
Adiguni.
Adigun. Ó sọ̀fò dànù. Ṣé oníyàwó?
Oníyàwó.
Ìyàwó rẹ̀ ó sọ̀fò. Ṣé o ti bímọ?
Mo ti bímọ.
Ọmọ rẹ̀ ó sọ̀fò. Àwọn ará ilé yín gbogbo yín lè jọ ṣòfò papọ̀. Kí a ní ṣe yín? Wọ́n ṣépè fún yín ni. Tó bá lọ, ó sọ̀fò.
Ó dáa mo ti padà o.
Bó ṣe padà náà, ó sọ̀fò.
Kí ni kí n wá ṣe báyìí?
Kó sọ̀fò ni.
Tó bá jókòó, a ṣe yẹn náà. Tó bá tún dúró, a jẹ́ kí n máa lọ. Tó bá tún ṣe yẹn náà, wàá tún ṣe nǹkan yẹn. Mi fẹ́ sọ tó rọrọ̀ burúkú ni, but it was funny. It is funny. All right, let's get back to the conversation. New Era says they should go if they want to go, as long as they are not dragging other tribes with them. Of course. They cannot live without other tribes. That's why I said you never hear people say they are looking for Igbo nation, which is crazy because that's what people should be looking for. For some weird reason, they don't look for that. Because they need other people to, they say, I need you to survive. I pray for you, you pray for me. I love you. They don't love anybody. They just need the people to survive. Let's read a few more things. Only ran on Ezekiel. He did not know what he really wanted. He was just doing anywhere belly face. New Era said, Ezekiel, I'm reading from here. I'm not the one that said it though. New Era also said Ezekiel was always chasing the food train, no matter where it was heading, even if it was the bottom of the Atlantic. It was as stable as water. Daniel, this is your name, Danslan Gegi or whatever. I apologize, I can't pronounce it. They kindly. Middlemen minority tribes have to create a doctrine to manage the splashes of success that is born from the exclusivity in the cultural circle. That's a lot of words. I don't know what I'm talking about, Sha. White Gobo says, many Niger Deltans even believe it was because Gowon gave them rivers and cross rivers that Ojukwu went to war. He wanted them under them himself. So, if you go back to Zeke did not want the Eastern minorities to have their own space. He want them to have their own states. That's one. By the time they had the Constitutional Conference in 54, he made that clear. When it was time to begin talking about creation of states and elections, the East still said no. If you look at the Igbo National Caucus Protocol of 1964, they also said no to Eastern minorities having their own place. I think I've read it here before, what they said about... Sorry, let me just ask. Has anybody heard me read that before? Eastern National Protocol, Igbo National Caucus Protocol, and what they said about the Eastern minorities. They essentially wanted them clamped down. Let me see if I can find it for you quickly. Timbari. It's in IUL collections. IUL collection of Nigerian Civil War. I'm going to read it to you very quickly. I hope I found it. God is good. This is what they wrote. The Igbo National Caucus. This was in 1964. They were reviewing the 20-year plan to dominate Nigeria perpetually. They said it. They wrote it. If you're looking forward to find it, IUL collection of the Nigerian Civil War. You see there. Some of you children just cussing and just insulting me in the comment section. Your fathers have eaten sour grapes. Your teeth are set on the edge. That's not making you insult me. Is that demon that got into you that you'll be delivered in Jesus' name? Let me tell you what they wrote. Despite the anti-Igbo propaganda now prevailing in the north and west, a survey of the situation shows quite clearly that though the situation is critical, it is not hopeless. And then they said in the east, despite the amateurish leadership of Okpara, the Onitsha Igbo and Igbo dispute has quietened. The ethics, the Ibibios and the Rivers tribes are still under complete control, even though their dreams of their own state have been completely shattered. They shattered the dreams of the minorities having their own spaces, having their own states. The Efiks, the Ibibios, and the Rivers tribes are still under complete control, even though their dreams of their own state have been completely shattered. That's for the East. They are for everybody. Despite the injuries of Okotiebo and Omosage, we have succeeded in clamping Osadebe firmly on the Midwest saddle, thus taking care of the Urobos, the Edos, and the Shekiris. There is nothing to fear in the Midwest but threats. The West is now the problem. This wasn't NCNC talking, this was Igbo National Caucus. That's why I look at young people when they get angry and curse. May you be delivered from the fallout or from the consequence of your parents' decisions, because there's no way you're going to have this kind of heart towards others and you're going to make progress in life. Let's not talk about what they plan for West and the North. We just leave that for now. Let's go back. So I want to read out to you. They said it was completely shattered. Their dream of having their own state, they shattered it. And I'm sure they're proud of it wherever they are now. Kelvin Ojukwu says, please give us and see whether they will go propaganda allegedly. Okay, so here's the thing. I don't have Biafra to give you. I don't have Biafra to give you. Today. I don't know if you can do it. You can start planning it now and execute it in the next few days. But you can do it now if you're really serious. Number one, get on the next bus and go back to the east. No, not east, southeast, the Igbo land. Go back to Igbo land now if you're really serious. Number two, meet your representatives in Igbo land in all the houses of assemblies. You have 5 houses of assemblies, right? 5 houses of assembly. Meet all those people there. Then get to the 58 representatives in Abuja. You have 15 senators and 43 House of Reps members. Tell them to push for a bill for the inclusion of secession in the Nigerian Constitution. Include that clause, and then you see miracles. They are the ones that owe you what you're asking me. I don't have any Biafra to give you, and I want them to give you the chance to choose. I know what you would choose, but I want them to give you the chance to choose. But if you choose to leave, then you can rabwe. If you choose to stay, you're going to keep quiet. You forever remain silent because there's nothing to shout and cry about because you chose to stay. Nobody forced you. So, all in all, those two things, move out of wherever you are across Nigeria, go back to Igbo land. Number two, talk to your representatives, let them give you what you want. Stop constituting nuisance and asking people for Biafra. I don't have it in my pocket. God bless you. Let's move on. Otayo Oladejobi, I like that name. You cannot heal what you do not acknowledge. Richard Raw, Franciscan priest. Here's the plight of these people. Yeah. Everybody has issues. To be clear, there's nothing like, oh, the one group is the problem. All of us, everybody has something they're trying to work out. Even Yoruba people, we have our own stuff. But here's the problem. If you cannot acknowledge your problem, you cannot heal. And you know the funny thing? If you don't want to acknowledge your problem, that is fine. It's within your right. If you like, acknowledge. If you like, don't acknowledge. What you cannot do is to blame me for your predicament when I have no reason to be blamed. When you do, I'll not tell you about your real problem. Then you curse me in the comment section and I will not curse you back. And then it will pain you. And then you'll be all right, hopefully. So the point is, if you are Igbo and you have any problem with Nigeria, that's okay. If you don't want to talk about a problem, that's fine. Don't blame me. God bless you. Adeomi. Oh, in Kiru, it says Lagos. Lagosians and Ijebus are not Yoruba, so you will be landlocked too. This one is very dumb. You know, some people, you know, the same way they give. God, let me not say it. in some places in this world, stupidity is an inheritance. This one got double portion. Because how on earth are Ijebu and Eko people not are worried not Yoruba? They are Yoruba now. You go to I see it. What do you know people their family houses gossip that say Nife. Particularly I worry because that one is even closer. Nife. So all this nonsense it doesn't matter. But let me even tell you something. You know Lagos coastline is not that long. It's smaller compared to Ondo State coastline. Ondo State coastline is longer than Lagos. So whether it's in Lagos or in Ogun or in Ondo, there's coastline. Your fathers didn't like water. Someone says Ijebus that have in the Oriki. Ekele mas sekun egbe in the comment section. Oni Ijebu and Yoruba. Ki wa ni won? Àti Ijebu, àti Awolowo, àti Ilaje, they are Yoruba people. Your fathers didn't like water, so they moved into where you are. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're just the one that thinks it's a problem. Let me tell you something. I don't think it's a problem. Being landlocked is not even a problem. If you have sense. But this one doesn't have. Let's go on. Whatever God gives you, use it, and you will do great things. But this ones, they're always looking for what they don't have. Adeomi Esquire says, Nkiru, please don't call me and publicly advertise your ignorance. It is well. Okay, I'll read one more thing, then we'll go to the news. Watikobo says the leaders are so mischievous that they will tell their people to vote to leave at the same time as instructing them physically to stay in Nigeria and claim to be Nigerian citizens. That's when you now see fire. You will choose one. You choose to remain, you choose to go. And this is what I believe. Anyone people choose, I don't think there's any problem with any of those things. People that want to secede and get out of the country, maybe they have a plan to build El Dorado. So why not take that chance? And those who want to remain in Nigeria, maybe they have a plan to also make Nigeria better. So why not, choose? Just choose. But you can't. You can't eat your cake and have it. If you want to go, Alora Mirami, you go. If you want to stay, you stay. Now let's go back to the news. How did we spend all that time on this? I think it was worth it, wasn't it? But someone says, I didn't see Igbo on this platform talking about ambush of food truck or Dev Africa. So let me say this. We'll get to this news. Two things. Number one, there are people who genuinely are ignorant of this and they don't know. They don't know. The only things they know, that the things that were told by their parents. Okay? So they truly do not know. There are some people, and I've met them, and those people were designed by devil, by Satan himself, to drain human beings. They were created by God though, but they have been possessed by demons to drain human beings. They know what you are saying. They will be talking rubbish. They can tell you about Sokoto when you're talking about the war. They'll be talking about different things. They will change topics several times. Red herrings, gaslight, every kind of nonsense they will put there. Then they will add ad hominem. Those ones, they know the truth, but they cannot take it. And the reason is that to acknowledge the truth is to lose their identity. Their very existence is based on lies. It's like when you talk about being a victim during the war, like, this is not what happened, this is what happened. The person doesn't care that you are telling the truth. The person's existence, identity, is based on victimhood. So to take that away from that person, that is to leave them empty. That's why Jesus used to ask people, do you want to be healed? He wouldn't just go anywhere and start praying for people and say everybody gets healed. In many cases, especially if he's talking to you as an individual, he will ask you, do you want to be healed? Because some people, that sickness is how they eat. If you heal them, money is not coming in again. That's how it is for some of these clowns. They know the truth, but they cannot bring themselves to accept it. For instance, what I read about Ojukwu is not new. This was 68. This is 2026. I mean, people may not know, to be fair. I mean, we too did not know from when we were born. Actually, we read and discovered. So that is true. But some people know. But they are committed to being Achebe. Achebe knew what happened, and Achebe still wrote propaganda book before he left this world. Just modeling things up intentionally because they have to keep the lie going. May God bless him. May he rest in peace. But I think the damage they did, that generation, the damage they did, it's not about them. It's about the young ones you talk to, that you cannot have a second of conversation with the average person before he curses you out. And you don't have to insult him. You just have to talk about what happened. Start throwing tantrums and acting as if he's demon possessed. Because lie belongs to the devil. Lying is the devil. Jesus said that in NIV, said that Satan is the father of lies. And when he speaks lies, he speaks his native language. KJV says he speaks of his own accord. But if you read New International Version, it says he speaks his native language. So anybody will lie, now Satan picking. Any small thing, they will curse you out. If you hear the truth, they are triggered. Everybody will be all right. Let's go to the news. I hope everybody is fine now. God bless everybody. News. All right, thank you very much for listening to that. I think it's fantastic. I mean, I kind of enjoyed myself. Some people try to come up early. I'm going to bring you up. I think people actually thought that I was reading comment section live. No, it's actually part of the video, part of the audio we listen to. So, Koboko and Mr. Remy guy, please send your request. But before we get into all those things, there are some things I saw on the comment section on YouTube. So there are two things I would like to discuss before we bring up people up. Maybe I'll do one, bring people up, then I'll treat the other one later. So someone said here, by the way, we have very cool stuff on YouTube and Facebook. Thanks everyone who commented, whether you're on YouTube, on Facebook, or on TikTok. All right, so Adekunle Rotimi says, let me start from Adesoji. They say content creation using these people bad. Well, that happened. Adekunle Rotimi says, takes about 2 to 8 months for marasmus and kwashiorkor to appear in conflict situations. If the symptoms of these diseases appeared in 1968, what does this say about food supply within Biafran held areas? The question sounds to me like a rhetorical question. I think he knows the answer, but I think it's also important for us to provide answers, just in case other people saw that in the comment section. But the way to answer this is to read a book. And I read it here before, but just in case you haven't heard it or heard me read it, at least we'll all read together now. So this book is titled The Nigerian Civil War by John Desenjo. And this is what he had to say about the starvation that happened during the war. Starvation, malnutrition, and infant mortality have always had a high incidence throughout Nigeria, the last rising to a phenomenal 50% in some places. But even before the war began, the situation was deteriorating in the Igbo areas of the east. By far the most densely populated part of the country, only Rwanda, Burundi, and the Nile Valley match it in Africa. Now listen to this. It relied traditionally and heavily on imported food, especially high-protein foods. He says traditionally, this is not about the war starting, this is how it's always been, okay? It relied traditionally and heavily on imported food, especially high-protein foods. These imports were paid for by the export of palm oil and kernels, and by the remittances sent home from Igbos working outside the East. I'll pause to quickly explain two things. Number one, the money that you have to use to buy, to import those foods came from two sources. Number one is from palm oil and palm kernel sales. Now, here's the thing. Palm oil and palm kernel, yes, you had palm oil in Igbo land, but let's be very clear. When it came to agriculture, most of the money that got into the Eastern region government did not come from Igbo land. It came from the Eastern minority areas. You'll find this in Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by H.M. Green, where Anthony Nauro stated in 1968 that out of the 25 million pounds that the Eastern region made, that's through agricultural export, 16 million came from the southeast. I mean, at the time, that's what we call Akwa Ibom Cross River today, came from the Eastern minority areas. 16 out of 25 is what? 64%. So most of the money did not even come from Igbo land, to be clear. But here's the thing, you needed that money to be able to import protein-rich food. This was before the war. This had nothing to do with the war. Secondly, they also got money through remittances from Igbos who were living outside the region. So on the one hand, you have the Eastern minorities making more money contributing more in terms of agricultural revenue. Now that you're declaring Biafra, you are fighting them as well because they want to break away, and Nigeria has also created states for them. So for folks in Akwa Ibom and Cross River, they got Southeast State. For folks in Rivers and Bayelsa, they got River State. And you in the East Central State that we now call Southeast Region, you want to take over those two places. So you are fighting those people. Those are the people that are still going to get the agricultural stuff from. Before the war, much of the food that was consumed in Igbo areas came from Ogoja. And so you already cut yourself out of it. And this is going to lead me to the second stuff. Maybe I'm going to read it later. I'll quickly look for that page that has to do with what Ojukwu actually did in terms of planning for feeding as far as the people were concerned. It's actually quite weird that a person would, have such an ambitious plan to have a new nation, but he's not even thinking of what the people will eat. Are you going to be governing stones? Well, that's a question I hope. We'll never get the answer to that. Okay, so much of the money as far as the agricultural revenue was concerned came from the Eastern minority areas. Now that you're fighting them, that means that you can't get that money. And then, of course, you don't have those other places as part of your region anymore. That's number one. Number two, you also depend on remittances from Igbos who are living outside the Eastern region. Now, when what happened in January, that was the first coup. People were chilling until May when there was the unification decree, and Igbos just taunting people for 4 months. People got really angry and started killing them. Fast forward to July, right? You had July counter coup by the Northerners, which led to a lot of Igbo officers being killed. Ojukwu hears about this, and of course, apart from officers, individuals, civilians were also killed, to be clear, and it was terrible and unfortunate. While they were being killed, a lot of them, of course, ran home. Not every Igbo person went back, but a lot of them ran home. When they got home, of course, they went bearing news of Nkoto Shele, and they heard what happened, began to kill the Northerners in the Eastern region. Okay, you find what I'm saying right now. You find it in Crisis and Conflict in Nigeria by H.M. Green. You find it in the Nigerian Civil War, the same book by John Desenjo, and you find some things here in the book, what I'm about to say now, in the book by Neville Graham Douglas, Ojukwu's Rebellion and World Opinion. And you can get that book for free, by the way. If you go to Redomi Global on Telegram, you can get that book for free. Redomi is spelled Redomi Global. So when they returned, the Igbos in the East began to kill the Northerners who were living there at the time. Of course, the news traveled back to the north via Republic of Benin, because there were white people who were present in Oboloa when Northerners were being killed. They took that news to Cotonou, where they now broadcast on Radio Cotonou. Folks said it in Kaduna, rebroadcast in English and in Hausa, and then they began to kill Igbos. Ojukwu then released a statement that people should return. Okay? Now, while they were killing Hausas, they were also ejecting Hausas. Ojukwu was telling the Hausas that, and not just Hausas, every non-Igbo person was ejected from the eastern region or from Igbo area. So, if you were Igbo but you were from the Midwest, they let you stay. If you were Yoruba, Bini, Edo, Urobo, Hausa, Fulani, Tiv, Tiv, right? Idoma, you've got to leave. So everybody who was not Igbo had to go. Everybody who was not in the eastern region or who was not from the eastern region and was not Igbo had to go. So if you were not from the eastern region but you were Igbo, they let you stay. But every other person, everybody had to leave. Now, Nebu Graham Douglas said in that book, Ojukwu's Rebellion and World Opinion, that what he was really doing was that he was trying to create space for his people that he had told to return from all parts of Nigeria. And Nebu Graham Douglas noted in his book that it made no sense because the people who were leaving were not as many as the people who were returning. In other words, the other Nigerians who were leaving the eastern region were not as many as the Igbos who were coming back to the eastern region. Therefore, the vacuum that these ones have created will not be enough for the vacancy, will not be enough for the ones coming back. What does all this Turenchi have to do with what I'm saying? Here's the issue. If folks who had, companies and businesses and working in the civil service all across the country, if you ask all of them to return, and it's the remittances they've been using to buy the protein-rich food you've been eating in your region, when they now return, where will you get the money to buy that food that you've been given, that the people will need in order to survive? In other words, the people who were living outside Igbo land, right, they were sending money back home, which is quite good and commendable. They were sending money back home. The money was being used to get protein-rich food for the people. Just like it happens now, you have remittances from abroad. People use that money. Now you say everybody come back home. Now when they come back home, they are coming to join the ones who are already on ground, and there's still no protein-rich food for them because there's no remittances coming from anywhere. That man and strategy were enemies. All right, let me keep reading. So it says here, these imports were paid for by the export of palm oil and kernels and by the remittances sent home from Igbos working outside the East. Even then, the level of feeding and protein intake was dangerously low. The troubles of 1966, which created 1.5 million refugees in the East, cut off the valuable remittances and destroyed the precarious balance. The outbreak of fighting eliminated further sources of protein. The cattle-raising districts of northeast Biafra, much of the fish from the riverine areas, and the vital imports of Norwegian stockfish. So the fish everybody ate most of the fish came from the riverine area where they went to kill people, by the way, and that was where they had the win-the-war meat situation. So imagine your meat is coming from Cross River area, then another state. Your fish is coming from the rivers area in another state. The legumes you don't plant, so you're going to have to import those ones from the north. So what exactly do you have to eat? This was even before the blockade. By the time you now had the blockade, because of course what was being sent was being stolen by the Biafran army, there's no way you're not going to have those people suffer. And it's a terrible thing that they suffered. It's not something to even use to say, I want to take a jab. You can't take a jab with the death and the suffering of people. However, it's important to question, to understand what happened so that you don't go on in life just being blackmailed by people saying, "Oh, see who you suffered. I understand you suffered, but let me tell you why you suffered. It's not because of me. I'm not going to bear responsibility for that. Awo has no blame as far as that is concerned. Blame Ojukwu." Let's finish reading this one. By the end of 1967, the situation had reached crisis proportions and the churches in Biafra made their first public appeal for help. The basic needs were in order of priority: protein-rich foods, medicines, and later bulk foods. The overall problem was starvation, but it was a twin-barbed killer. Even its names, marasmus and kwashoko, have a deadly ring. Let's stop here at the moment. But here's the thing that we're trying to say, that just like the person says here, that if it takes about 2 to 8 months for marasmus and kwashoko to appear in conflict situations, if the symptoms of these diseases appeared in 1968, what does this say about food supply within Biafran held areas? It says that before the war, food supply was very poor in Biafra area. The land, there are other reasons. For instance, Igbo land itself is not the best when it comes to agriculture. Or you have some places, for instance, in Abakaliki, in a area where they have, good soil to plant. But even then, most of them were into subsistence agriculture. Okay, so most of what you call Igbo land doesn't have arable, portions, and even the ones that is arable is not all fertile. It's very, funny the way things were. And by the way, if you also, and I'm going to have this session once, very soon. Why did Igbos return immediately after the war? Think about it. Maybe I won't talk about it today. I'll just, put it out there. But it's a question for you. And if you write in the comment section, maybe I can just talk about what you are writing. But it's a question you should think about. If these Nigerians are demons and they are so and they're so terrible and they are crazy, return to that same Nigeria immediately after the war. Think about it. Because what you expect is that you go as far as possible from the enemy. Even after settling, you still be wary. But the way they moved en masse. It was as though nothing happened before then. So it's a question that I think people should also ask themselves. But while we're asking that question, or attempting to answer the question, I want to bring two people up, and then I'll read the other stuff about Ojukwu's preparedness preparation for the war itself as far as feeding his people was concerned. Thank you very much for listening to that. Let's have Koboko, and I'm going to respond to you guys in the comment section very soon. Good evening, Koboko. Hello.
Oh, good evening, Prof. Sorry, I didn't even realize that was on.
Thank you for coming up for the first time.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Everything just just gaining so much knowledge this past few months. I don't know, it's just intense for me.
Thank you, sir. Esheun. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. And thank you very much for your support. Thanks for liking. You're always supporting in the comment section. Thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. Yes, sir. All right, let's have Oloye Tizokaleo. Oloye Tizokaleo. I hope I can quickly find this stuff. Where's Mr. Remy? Olumiwa says they wanted to develop Lagos. That's why they returned. Joker. Uncle development too. Is that? Let me just keep quiet. It is well. But thank you for that. That was funny. They couldn't wait to develop Lagos. Thank you. I'm sure we needed all the help we could get. I'm just going to read some of the comments before we go to other things. Lagos says 9 years after the war, they were given a notable position in Nigeria. Yeah. 9 years after the war, Igbos had a vice president. Or at least Nigeria had an Igbo vice president. That's a better way to put it. Which is crazy, considering the fact that you hear people saying things like, oh, since Kinikon, Igbos have never been, like, wait, just 9 years. Not many countries in the world, can boast of doing that. Just 9 years after the war, Nigeria produced a vice president from the region of the people who lost the war. It's not something that you always essentially, and I think Nigerian leaders, should take their flowers. Although people don't like to acknowledge it, but I think it's important to. And that's another thing. See, if you don't know how to appreciate people for the things they've done for you, you will not get another one. You will cry, but that's your problem. That's your business, and it's important that people actually acknowledge it. Nigeria is not perfect as a country, right? No country is perfect anyway, but we like to highlight the things that are not working, but there are some things that work. You see, in 1978-79, when they were preparing for that election, they made sure that the three major parties had either an Igbo presidential candidate or vice presidential candidate. There were many parties, but there were three major political parties. There was NPN. That was Michel Shagari. He, of course, is from the north. but his vice presidential candidate was an Igbo man, Alex Ekweme. There was UPN, right, Unity Party of Nigeria. That was Awolowo. Papa was, of course, Yoruba, but his vice presidential candidate was Igbo, Philip Omiadi. And then there was NNPP NNP, and the presidential candidate was Azikiwe himself. So there was an Igbo presidential candidate in NNP. There was Igbo vice presidential candidate in both, or there were Igbo vice presidential candidates in both UPN and NPN. And when NPN won, Nigeria got an Igbo vice presidential candidate 9 years after the war. And it's an arrangement to bring people back, to draw them back in and give them a sense of belonging. But instead of taking it as that, people just, start crying all over the place. We have got nothing. I mean, I don't like ingrates. It's just a personal thing. And I'm sure some people don't mind, but they rub me off the wrong way personally. All right. If you'd like to contribute to the to the conversation, please send your request. I saw Mr. Remy earlier, Remy guy, but I'm still looking for what I wanted to share with you. That it's an interview between Ojukwu. It's actually somewhere here. Timbari Maka. It's an interview between Ojukwu and Frederick Forsyth. Right, Forsyth was an Ojukwu person. He really supported him in everything, and he also, acknowledged that he was biased. Thankfully, he did that in his memoir. So, because if we say, people always say that he wasn't biased, but he said it himself that he was. And then he had this interview in 1970 with Ojukwu, where Ojukwu actually talked about, the plans that he had or didn't really appear to have as far as feeding his people was concerned. But I'm going to bring someone up, and then we'll get to that later. Fola Rich, evening, sir. Ẹkáàbọ.
Good evening, sir.
Evening, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for this session.
Sure.
And I want to thank you for the ones you've had in the past, yesterday as well.
Thank you.
I thank you for shedding a light on this, because this has been a great point that they used to gaslight the people of our nation, I mean the Yoruba nation, that Awo did this, Awo did this, and Awo did that. And I really thank you for what you said about Achebe. I told somebody that he's the most evil person I know. I said, how would you write such a divisive book on your way out? You were about to die, and that was the last thing you did to put hatred in the hearts of people. Come on. It was so divisive. I remember when I read the book, I was doing a program in the East, because I've lived in the East, and you know what they don't have on me. Tobatin song pe àwọn làwọn develop Èkó, máa wá béèrè in pé ibo ló ti wá. Toba ti sobe ba wá júwe ọ̀nà, because I used to be a telecom engineer, and we used to go for transmission site survey. So we'll have to go and survey. Yes, we'd have to go and survey sites that nothing has been installed before. So I worked largely in Anambra, Abia, and Enugu, then some little parts of Ebonyi. So mo mọ̀ lú wọn dáadáa. Ṣé rí nǹkan tí wọ́n sọ ń pa ó tì yẹn, tí wọ́n congratulate yẹn, ó yẹ kó congratulate. Tẹ́ bá rántí governor wọn kan láyé ìgbà kan tó sọ pé àwọn ti develop nítorí àwọn ti ní Domino's Pizza.
Wow.
Tẹ́ bá rántí. He said we are developed. Yes, he did. Okay, Ikpeazu. He said
Onolo is the one that also gave them 500 naira.
As their brother used to say. Yes, I don't even know if he's the one, but
he's the one. He's the one. I have a video of the interview.
Where he gave,
okay, please continue. I'll talk later.
So he said they had advanced because they had Domino's Pizza. So Toba bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí ní sọ kíní kan Lagos is this, Lagos is that. Èmi máa ń rán wọn padà lọ sílé ni. But I want to thank you for enlightening people of the Yoruba nation, and especially people like myself, because it made me read some books. The most painful part of it is that How they make a hero out of weaklings is what I don't understand. Now, a person that had never fired a shot is rat. Convince you people to go into a war. You made him your lord. He made sure people died. He had child soldiers. Arrested Jaja Awolowo because it was T.Y. Danjuma that rescued Jaja Awolowo when they saw him in jail because Jaja said he should not make use of child soldiers. Sir, even if you watch the movie Americana, no, the movie
Half of a Yellow Sun.
Chimamanda, yeah,
Half of a Yellow Sun.
Half of a Yellow Sun, you will see the speech. Ojukwu saw, come on, boys, come on. He was telling boys of the Boy Scouts. These were 12-year-olds at the time that they should give them gun. They were giving them wooden guns to go to war. So those were children. And Jaja Awolowo said, you can't do this. They arrested. He was arrested for speaking up against Ojukwu. Now, that same person ran away, could not hand over. He was not brave enough to hand over. He now came back and you gave him a hero's welcome and you treated him like a hero till the day. In fact, the political party he set up in the state that he's from, if you are not a part of that political party, you cannot win election in that state. That is how much of a hero you made such a weakling. I don't understand the mentality. And kini Ọlọ́run ló máa gbà wá lọ́wọ́ wọn nítorí Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kó bọ́nú ẹ̀. You know, if you téèyàn bá lè change mentality èèyàn tó yẹn, and they'll say, oh, was it not Awolowo that did this, Awolowo that did that? In sir, anytime I'm in an argument with them and they are trying to be civil and they flippantly, just mistakenly flippantly talk about Baba, moment change any. And I suggest everybody does so. We shouldn't come to them as though, as much as possible, I used to give them an educated background of what I'm saying, but I don't say it softly. I say it with my heart palpitating. I say it, I let them know that you cannot disrespect this man. In my own opinion, and this is my personal opinion, he's the best thing he's one of the best things rather that's ever happened to the Yoruba nation. And he's the greatest politician that the Yorubas that has ever had. He was not just a politician, he was very creative. He thought of the future. Oh, do an investment. Washing genuine titi dollar. So what are you saying? No other part of Nigeria has it. And the North was in power for over 32 years. What, Shini? And you now come and you just flippantly talk about Baba like that, or you flippantly talk about a Yoruba person like that. So I used to get to them. So once again, I just want to say thank you. I've even gone out of point, but I want to say thank you for this session, for bringing, for enlightening our people on what is right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Folarich. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I mean, fantastic stuff. And I agree with what you said. Awolowo is the greatest politician out of the continent. And acknowledging that, I think, is actually the beginning of wisdom, in my opinion. And it's the right way to actually think of these things. I'm still looking for that page I said I was going to read to us. I've not found it, but there's something I found. Maybe I should just read it to you. Maybe I just read it to you. So there's something that Mr. Fola just said right now about it's a book by the first commander of Biafra, of the Biafran army. This is weird. I'm actually looking at it, but I can't access it. Give me a second, please. I'm going to find the book. Where did I see it just now? Okay, the man's name is Hilary M. Ojukwu, and there's something he wrote that I don't think people actually appreciate. But I'm going to read something to you about the young men that Fola referred to earlier. Okay, this book is called "The Tragedy Without Heroes." The most crucial day of this particular phase was on 10th of July 1967. Sure, number. Okay, no. The head of state, that's Ojukwu. By the way, again, the man who wrote this book was the commander of Biafran army, the first one, that is Ilari Njoku. It says, the most crucial day of this particular phase was on the 10th of July 1960. Poured into Enugu a large contingent of mixed age of males from Abam, Abriba, and Ohafia. His strategy was similar to that of the Chinese, the human wave. These men, armed with machetes, Dane guns, and a few 12-bore sporting guns, were sent to the Nsukka front. At the sound of mortar and machine gun fire, they ran like drunken monkeys to different directions, but certainly not forward. They were recalled to Enugu, put into the train, and were taken back to Umuahia. This incident left its effect on the nerve of our soldiers, who were already battle-weary, inadequately armed, and poorly provided for. They looked more like ghosts than human beings. The way troops were fed in the front line was as follows. Whenever food arrived, they cut themselves 2 cocoyam leaves each, and they dug 2 adjacent holes, and so on and so forth. The point I'm making here is that when he had all these young men from Abam, Abriba, and Ohafia, he gave them machetes, gave them Dane guns, and only 12 held sporting guns. There were no weapons, but it was using people. And the funny thing is that the people whose parents and grandparents died this way will not hold the person who was actually responsible. They will not hold him responsible for that. Why? Because he's Igbo and because he's one of theirs. But then all you have to do is just not be Igbo, and then everybody starts saying Awolowo. By the way, what you said about Awo it's what I do as well. I can't take people insulting him or throwing jabs at Awo. I just can't take it. I try sometimes, but I can't promise that I will. I mean, I find it difficult. And I'll tell you why. And I'll tell you before here. If anybody can find it convenient to insult your father in your presence, and I'll tell you the point. The point is, this is the person you're looking up to. Now, if he was somebody who was a terrible person, we'll talk about it and say, oh, see what he did, it was wrong. But this man actually was a good, he was the greatest, okay? So, to now have people disparage him in your presence and just say, it means that what you're doing is you are actually dimming your own light and reducing your own chances of ever becoming bright. And what that means basically is this. The brightest amongst you, you can't stand up for that person. So what it means is that everything, bright, you can't do it, which means you can never be right. Like, it's the way life works. So the person who is attacking your hero, who is a real hero, not the other person that was now made a hero. The person who is attacking your hero and you're like, oh, it matter. It's not really about the hero, it's about you and your people. Why do you notice that everybody's talking about Awolowo, or talk about Wole Soyinka, talk about Adeboye, talk about Kumuyi? They talk about the topmost guys in your space, and most of us just smile and say, it's not a joke. It's intentional, and they're going for those that you actually look up to, because once you have nobody to look up to, because there's no example, and the people who are doing this to you don't have such examples where they come from, which is the truth, So it's important for us to speak up and, again, to be on the side of truth when these matters come up. If I find that stuff, I wish I had prepared it. I would have just read it straight, but I'm going to look for it and read it to you guys. What Ojukwu said to Frederick Forsyth. I think I'm close, but do we have any other person who would like to share their thoughts? Okay, maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some of the comment section. Some of the comments in the comment section. Girl. Yeah, some of these things are. What I'm looking for is a newspaper clipping, right? And it's something I used a while back, but for some reason I can't find it now. But we'll see. While we're doing that, let's read. On Facebook says, I think they were in a hurry to continue the development they started. You were answering the other question about why they returned. It says, I think they were in a hurry to continue the development they started in Yoruba land. They love Yoruba so much that they were eager to help us develop Yoruba land. Okay. So I think at this point I should just speak on that. The reason they returned was because there was no other option as far as survival was concerned. They had to leave. They needed Nigeria to survive. And as it was, so it is. And there's no shame in that, by the way. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the crazy part is just when people like that now tell you that they are developing your land. That's what be like, wait, you know, so, but yeah, they couldn't wait to return. They could not wait to return. All right, let's see if we have others. Late Babafemi Awolowo is great more than any one of them. I mean, to be honest, in fact, let me even say this. Just to be clear, this Awolowo thing, it has nothing to do with being Yoruba. All you have to do is just read these books. Just tell yourself that you want to read. By the way, if you want Awolowo's books, please go to Radio Me Books on Telegram. We have an online bookshop, and I'll say this to you: it's going through, I mean, many books. So you can order from anywhere in the world, and we now have we're partnering with a very good delivery company, so you get your books. Interestingly, we've delivered books within Nigeria and outside Nigeria, and it's been lovely so far. So yeah, please check out. There's a section in Radio Me Books on Telegram. There's a section on Awo, and I think people should actually take advantage of that. You know what? Let me read some of the titles to you, just in case you're interested. You should read those books. Nobody comes close on the continent of Africa. Nobody. His plans were well thought out. He was a visionary. Many of the things that we're still using today in Nigeria was our stuff. 1 second, let me get you some of the titles that I think you should get. Okay, Obafemi Awolowo books. So you can get Awo, the autobiography of Chief Obafemi Awolowo. There's Awo, the Nigerian Civil War. The biography is actually a very good place to start. In that book, you're going to discover that many of the things you're complaining about now, those things have happened before. All these things that Igbos are doing and saying all kinds of things happened before. The political gimmicks between the North and the West happened before. The collaboration between the North and the East against the West, it happened before. There is nothing new. But the foundation, to be honest, when it comes to, and I think I should say this, someone asked me the other day that why not talk about Fulani? And you're always talking about what Igbos are doing in terms of, you know, the shows. And I said, if you're talking about the coups and the civil war, how are you not going to talk about Igbos? But here's the thing. You see, Fulani, they fight you, they're carrying arms. The solution to that is government. The government needs to, and they're working on it now. You see everything you're hearing about the security architecture being overhauled, the police, state police being talked about now. All these things. By the way, we should have a section on you know, the report on the state police. Those things are based on government policy. You can't really do much. You can talk about what's happening, but you can't really do much about it because most of us are going to be here to talk. But I don't know how many people here want to carry guns and get to the field and go and do what Baluk Wanderin did in the 19th century. So most of that has to do with them. The other group, they don't have weapons to fight you. What they use to fight you is their tongue and their fingers. They speak and they tweet. And what they are doing is exactly what Ojukwu, what Azikiwe did in the 40s, in the 30s into the 40s. He started in 1938. Attacking, and it's subtle in the beginning. But going at your identity, going at who you are, talking about it, demeaning you. You see what's happening on Twitter now. Everybody's insulting Yoruba women, and Yoruba women are now speaking up. Well, we've been speaking up for them for a bit, and I'm glad they're also speaking up for themselves. Nobody comes to Yoruba women for kind of, I mean, respect to all women, but do you know what this would be a Yoruba woman? I'll talk about it. We'll get into that topic sometime. But now everybody's speaking up about it. Now, that thing you're seeing on Twitter is not just, this is not the first time Oshele 1930s, beginning in 1938. Ojukwu returned in 37, began in newspaper, and then began to push narratives in 38. And those things, by 1948, Yoruba people were tired. That was when they began to respond. And then we started hearing that they were bigots. And it was going to lead to real war. People were buying machetes all across Lagos because there was going to be a showdown between Yorubas and Igbos. 1948. This is not about Tinubu won. Tinubu is Tinubu that caused it. Tinubu did not make that clown that was saying Yoruba women are dirty to be saying it in 2013. People like to blame Tinubu for anything. If they can't take care of their families, Tinubu, if they can't sleep with their wives, Tinubu, everybody's, if he's not rising, it's also Tinubu. It's crazy, right? So the idea is, the reason we talk more about that is because apart from the war, when it comes to history and the coup and so on and so forth, there is this thing about always attacking the person or the culture or the heritage of Yoruba people, right? You denigrate them, use them as the butt of your jokes, you claim what says, you appropriate their culture, and they can't speak back because they're like the Oyinbo of Nigeria. We are treated, it's the same way they talk about whites in America. Like you just have to take it. I don't take nonsense. So insult me, insult the heritage, you'll be collect. Right? And it's not collect in the sense of I want to insult you. You've got to know your place. All right, let's set the record straight and everybody will be fine. So the reason we talk about this a lot of times is because it's affecting people. You have a lot of people who tiptoe around topics that they should be bold about. They are the people Yoruba people who can't speak up, who are now beginning to act like cowards because they've been told they are cowards. Meanwhile, the person who is telling you does not have a single hero in his history and clearly has elevated their own cowards to be heroes. But then you are a Yoruba person, you have history that goes back thousands of years. You have heroes and heroines from different parts of your land, from all four corners of Yoruba land. But you are going to have to now dim your light in order to be acceptable to certain people in the country. That's why we speak up on these matters. And yes, we know that it's not everybody from Igbo land that thinks like that. But it's important that, like someone wrote in the comment section, it's important that we don't walk on eggshells in this country. I can respect you and love you without deprecating myself. I don't have to self-deprecate because I want to make. And by the way, what we do in Yoruba now, we can self-deprecate because for the most part, we just think we're talking to your peers. If you're talking to your friend, for instance, you can even say something about yourself that's not so cool, and then you laugh over it because it's your peer, it's your friend. You can say it to him too, and then you also take the friendly jabs that we have, amongst ourselves, you and your friends. It doesn't have to be insults, but just light stuff that you can say, and the person will just say, "Oh my God," when he says it to you too, you laugh. Well, you can't do that in Nigeria, because when you make yourself the butt of the jokes, say something about them. Let it be something light, not so deep, just something like the person will begin to cry like a baby because at this point you have destroyed their heritage and their lives. Oh, how dare you, how dare you. That's why you don't deprecate with people like that. Just, everybody maintain their maintain lane, and then you respect people, you love people, but you don't bring yourself down because you have to help people. Meanwhile, most of the things they're talking about now lie. Like we heard today, a Yoruba person, no Yoruba man or woman should ever think they have to apologize for the starvation in the Eastern region during the war. Just because you hear, Awo did this, you two are apologizing. Awo didn't do anything that actually caused starvation. Awo actually helped. But people are not ready for that conversation. But whether they are ready or not, here we come. All right, so you should read the book Awo and the Nigerian Civil War. It has, by the way, it's a very good book I want to recommend. It has the transcript of the meeting that Papa had with Ojukwu on 6th and 7th May 1967. Papa was there telling him not to fight. Ojukwu was just speaking all the English and saying that he had built the largest army in Black Africa. You see all of that. And then, of course, the things that Awo actually said, not what they said he said. Like General Achebe that Fola spoke about earlier. General Achebe was an interesting character. If you read this book, There Was a Country, he will say things like, Ojukwu said, as though he was not there. And each time he says that, what he's about to say is a lie. And I'll give you two examples. Number one, he said Awolowo said that all is fair in war and salvation was a weapon of war. And then he stayed on that and began to say that was a very terrible thing to do. And then Igbos will read that thing and start feeling sorry. So what they have done basically is to continue that tradition of victimhood. And like we said in that video, Awolowo did not end his statement by saying all is fair in war, salvation is a weapon of war. No, he said, I don't see any, I'm going to paraphrase, I don't see any sense in feeding my enemies so they can grow fatter and fight me harder. That one is verbatim. And so when he's talking about those who will eat his food and grow fatter to fight harder, he was talking about the soldiers. And he mentioned it in the 1983 campaign interview. You can't feed your enemy to grow stronger and fatter not to fight you. It's stupid. Any sensible human, in fact, you don't have to be sensible concept. You know that makes no sense. And you who wants to fight, how come you didn't think of how to feed your soldiers? So I want to feed your people who I don't have to feed, to be clear. But because I'm a child of God, I'm going to do what I can to. So I'm going to feed them. But this is what you do. You take the food I'm sending to your people, you divert the food to your soldiers and your lecturers and your architects and your engineers, and they are eating. And the people that I send the food to are scavenging. And I'm supposed to keep sending that food in order to be seen as a good person. No, now. So I said, we're going to have to starve these guys. And if you look at the context and you understand what he said, and he has given many interviews to talk about it, he was talking about the people that were stealing and eating the food. And even when they opened the corridors and said, okay, let food come in now, Ojukwu still said no. Why? Because he needed to take pictures. Who said that? Robert Goldstein. He was the PR of Biafra in the United States. And he wrote a letter August 17, 1968, published in the Morning Post in Lagos. You find it in the book by Brigadier Godwin Alabi-Sama. It's called The Tragedy of Victory. But you can also see it online. Just look for it, Robert S. Goldstein. I mean, whichever word comes to your mind, Goldstein's letter to Ojukwu about Biafra. You see all the points he put out there. It's a shame. And you are going to have to, apologize for Ojukwu's errors. That makes no sense. So yeah, read Awolowo, Our Nigerian Civil War, Our Unfinished Greatness by Olufemi Ogunsanwo. Please just check that platform, Telegram, Read Me Books. You'll find a lot of books I believe will help you. My March Through Prison, Path to Nigerian Freedom, Problems of Africa, The Strategy and Tactics of the People's Republic of Nigeria, Adventures in Power, Volume 1. Volume 2 is The Travels of Democracy and Rule of Law. Volume 1 is My March Through Prison, Thoughts on the Nigerian Constitution, Voice of Courage, Voice of Reason, Voice of Wisdom. I grew up reading those books. Were not the books when I was growing up, they were excerpts in the Nigerian Tribune. My father used to buy Nigerian Tribune on a daily basis. So I think it was maybe during the week or Sundays, you always have something from Voice of Reason. So they have, excerpts every time you get to read those things. But now we have the books, and you can also have them by going to the Telegram channel, Read Me Books. All right, it's spelled REDOMI Books on Telegram. And the books will be shipped to you wherever you are in the world. All right. Ibulaboro NTC. Comments. Facebook, Conley Rothman says they are just so threatened and obsessed by the great Eastern culture, and especially the beautiful language of the Yoruba. That's why they are always eager to copy with the Yoruba, to imagine themselves in that pedestal with Yoruba. It is well. Omotayo Ayola says, Ishu kì í ṣe ẹgbẹ́ iyán kékeré kọ́ ni bàbá fi ju ọmọ lọ. I actually read this without you putting at me. I deserve an award. But thank you very much for that comment. I don't want to say anything on it, but thank you. Oh boy, people are angry on this internet. I'm not going to read some of the things you have written, but thank you very much for your comments. Okay, if I find you that stuff, I promise maybe tomorrow I'll look for it. It's a newspaper clipping I had somewhere. I actually referred to it a while back, so I'm going to look for it and I will read it tomorrow. I'm very sure I'm going to find it before tomorrow. I'm just going to read to you what Ojukwu said to Frederick Forsyth when they were discussing the plans that he had and the mistakes that let me even say this. I mean, perhaps I think two things that he did, right? Ojukwu did, because I like to also look for the good in people. Two things Ojukwu did that I respect. Number one was how he described Awolowo in his book, because I'm involved. Although I'm disappointed in that book, in him for that book, because in that book he expected him to talk about the war. He didn't. So I'm wondering, why do you publish the book in the first place? But aside that, the way he described Awolowo was actually fair, you know, and he talked about him in glowing terms. Although when Awolowo was alive, I was so tired of him in 1983. I said he was irredeemable. You see that in the 1980s. Then the second thing was this interview that he had in 1970, where he acknowledged his mistakes, which is something very strange considering the person who was talking, because that people will never do nothing wrong. Everybody else is the one at fault. So it was actually a pleasant surprise to read when he said, you know, could have done this, it could have done that better, and then he didn't do that, and so on and so forth. But yeah, that happened. I'm looking for it as I'm talking. Can you imagine? Anyway, does any other person want to say anything? That would have been cool. If you want to say something, like, it would be really cool. So I can't concentrate on looking for this thing. Okay, I don't think anybody wants to speak at this moment. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. Tomorrow we're going to have a full session. So sometimes we have shorter sessions like we're doing today, and sometimes we have like a full session like we're going to have tomorrow. We're going to have a full session where we'll have the news, we'll discuss different things, and we will also, read. But we'll see how that plays out tomorrow. I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing something from 17th March 1969. Let me read it to you. This is from Basil Davidson. Nigerian War by Mr. Basil Davidson, 17 March 1969. It says, Sir, Mr. Confusion in his letter today of the case for the Igbo with the case for Biafra. Two quite different things is perhaps a common one. Newly won federated status. On the contrary, the evidence suggests that they most certainly, I'll take that again, there is no evidence that these Delta peoples wish to lose their newly won federated status. On the contrary, the evidence suggests that they most eagerly wish to retain it. Nobody will find easy solutions to this tragic war, but confusing the issues will be the last thing that can help. That's actually very good. And why are they saying that? Because we're talking about the kind of solutions that Nigeria needed. At this point, May 27, 1967 was when Gowon created the 12 states, right? So we already broken the East into 3, broke the West into 2 after it was already broken in 63, then broke the North into 6. So the minorities who now had their own states were in Biafra. And I think people should also appreciate this thing, to be honest. I don't think we appreciate it enough. The truth of the matter is that if what they wanted was Igbo nation, they would have got it. By now, there'll be a stronger or not, there'll be an Igbo nation, like a sovereign state that is Igbo. What they wanted then, but what they wanted was to have what the minorities had, whether it was the land or whether it was the oil, or the fact that, you could access the sea. That's exactly why they held on to those things. So those ones were like, you know what, we can have peace, but we're not going to go back into being part of your region, because they held on to those people. I mean, it's the same reason folks in Southern Cameroon had to break out of Nigeria. That's the reason we lost that place. Just in case I hope we all know, the reason Southern Cameroon broke out of Nigeria was because of the overbearing nature of the folks in the eastern, of the Igbos in the eastern region. And the documents they produced and things they wrote, the books they wrote, and even the research that has been carried out by Nigerians, they are all available. If you want to have that conversation, I will be glad to have it. But we have Vodis Copy wants to speak, so let's have Vodis Copy share his thoughts. Good evening, Vodis Copy. Hello, Vodi. Is Vodi there, or is it my network? Vodio. Hello? Oh boy, I think he's probably not available. Maybe I should take you down and bring you back up. Okay, I think we just call it a day. If we're not able to get him back, I really wish I could, but it doesn't look like we can. Hello, Vodi, can you hear me? Vodio. All right. We good? I think it's his network. Oh, I'm gonna try this thing. 1 second, please. Oh, CEO, good to see you. Otojemeta, FFT. FFT has been hiding in this comment section, but I'm glad I saw you now, Sha. All right, you know what? I think we should call it a day, and perhaps we'll. Oh, FFT is up. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you so much.
Happy New Month. Otojemeta.
Yeah. I came late to the session, but yeah, I still met a few things that you were talking about. One of the things that made me even wanted to come up before was about what's going on Twitter and how our women are they are standing for themselves now. I really appreciated it. Like a lot of times we had this discussion here about how we produce very strong women and how women have led in our own society, and we're taking a lot of those backlash lying down. And yeah, I think the problem now is that for even the men now to stand taller, because if the women can be standing for themselves, and we still have men that still pander, that they are still going through corners. The people that are talking about you, they are saying it to your face. But when you want to reply them, you are trying to be diplomatic and things like that. I understand the part where you don't have to come for people that don't come for you. But when you come for me, I should come for you too. So I hope that someday, and this kind of show that you are doing, because yesterday I was one of the lives that those ladies were on, and I'm very sure that one of those ladies that were speaking is listening to your show. I am so certain.
Oh.
The moment she started speaking about Biafra history, I knew she was saying things that you were saying, so I knew that she was repeating you. So this kind of show that you are doing is really, really going farther than you can even think. That even with our regulars, they don't even know the amount of people that watch these things and learn. So the way those women were defending themselves when they were talking about, why somebody came up, and I think that lady was from Italy, so she doesn't live in Nigeria. She was not asking that she was a Yoruba girl, but she does not understand where all this, vermin is coming from. So they were starting to explain it to her, and they were using history to back it up on how it has happened in the past, what has happened. I was like, wow, how did they know these things? But I knew that person was listening to you. So those kind of ladies now, they've been equipped. And I know that a lot of men too are listening. And I wish that someday very soon, we are going to gain our respect back. There's nothing bad in being in a multicultural country like Nigeria, but we have to take that respect back. And the problem, a lady said something yesterday, and that's the point. A lady said the reason why they have gotten away with so much without us reacting is that we understand respect. We grow up with respect, but they don't have respect in their own worldview. So when they speak to you, they speak to you just straight up. There's no room for let me respect this person. Oh, this thing might be sensitive. No. They don't respect each other, so they don't talk to you with respect too. So that's how it has been. I was like, yeah, it makes sense. So I really hope that this show keeps going bigger and bigger and bigger, and maybe someday we have a podcast on YouTube that you can invite people and it will be bigger than this by the grace of God.
Amen. Thank you very much. We have a podcast on YouTube already, but we're not interviewing people yet. But thank
I'll
you.
be checking it out. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I mean, I hear it a lot. People say things about, folks quoting stuff from this platform. And I think it's a thing of joy. The important thing is that people are learning and that we're able to defend ourselves. That, if this generation, if we learn these things and we know it, that means that, the next generation will be okay. In other words, again, like I always say, you're not teaching them to hate anybody. So the part of, love everybody or kosija, or, but, be able to stand tall and stand up for yourself and don't let anybody gaslight you with all this, it's Nigeria, because Nigeria happened to me. I don't care. I mean, I care enough to acknowledge your pain, but I don't care to the point where I lose myself just because you went through whatever pain, real or imaginary or imagined. So I think that's the point that, we are getting to. So Badru says, the boy on TikTok by the Igbo King in South Africa is most probably referring to you, Mr. Busui. Somebody said that some days ago. I acted as if I didn't say it. I think I did the second or third person that was saying that thing. It is well. The truth of the matter is, if an Igbo person actually listens to me and opens their heart, I think they will be saved forever. They will be able to stand tall and just act like they are normal, like first-class citizens. But they listen to their own elders, they always think they're second-class. That kind of book on his way out of the world, out of this earth. And I hope, I don't like talking about that book because, man, thing to do to the next generation. And by the way, just to be clear, in case you don't know, Achebe was a propagandist for Biafra. In other words, he worked in Radio Biafra, apart from being a roving ambassador for Biafra. So he was traveling the entire continent, preaching about the greatness of Biafra and trying to get folks to help them, just like just like Azikwe also did, right? He traveled the entire place, telling them about the greatness of Biafra and so on and so forth, and then worked in Radio Biafra itself to help with propaganda. And so it's and to not have that person still hold on to that even when they're about to leave the earth, I think it's a disservice to the next generation of Igbo people. And I hope things get better for them. But at the end of the day, all of us need to just grow up, and everybody will be fine. Kind of things I'm seeing here are actually very. I said something about Ojukwu line earlier. Let me read something to you from this document. It's a paper. What's the word? Stephen Okafor, a 50-year-old leading Igbo and formerly a wealthy ship owner who has escaped from Biafra with his wife and 8 children after spending the entire civil war there, described in London yesterday the appalling reality of the military and police reign of terror, under which the civilian population lives, and told of the Igbos longing for an end to the war. He spoke too of the terrible lies told by Colonel Ojukwu and of the way visiting journalists had the wool pulled over their eyes by their Biafran military and civilian guides. This dramatic attack on Colonel Ojukwu's regime by a prominent Igbo chief is likely to bring considerable damage to the Biafran cause. though Chief Okafor's assertions will no doubt be strongly challenged. It says he announced Biafran secession. Chief Okafor was caught up in the hysteria of those days in which many of us Igbos behaved badly. In fact, let me read it slowly because it's an Igbo person. This was the war was still on when this person was able to escape to London. It says after Ojukwu announced Biafra secession, Chief Okafor was, quote, caught up in the hysteria of those days in which many of us Igbos behaved badly. But from the outset, I could never really believe in the Biafran concept. I soon realized that its leaders had made a terrible mistake, but then it was too late. We were all in a prison. His chance to escape came when federal troops started to occupy Enugu Agidi, where he was living as chief of the Umuri clan. In the general confusion, he ran from his compound with all his family and they escaped into the bush. After a month of wandering barefoot and starving in search of a way out of Biafra, they eventually bluffed a military detachment and got through the perimeter to Udi, 8 miles south of Enugu. There, the Red Cross took care of them. You see, the old ones amongst the Igbos, they know exactly what happened, and many of them do not rate Ojukwu at all. They don't rate Ojukwu. That's the truth. It's just these young ones. I know who lie to them. And this is another thing. If your parents were educated, you would not rate Ojukwu. Most likely. Because you saw what happened. But if your parents depended on Radio Biafra for their information, you'll be the one saying he's a hero and Awolowo was bad. However, if your parents were educated, uneducated people, which is why you see people who went to school still saying the same thing in some cases that uneducated people say. There's another thing. I don't want to change this title. I'm going to come back. One of these days, we're going to have another session where we'll discuss all these fantastic things that I'm seeing here. But I'm going to stop here for now. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. I want to thank everybody who has made today's session a success. Thanks to Abi71, to Kulikuli. Is it Kulikuli? No, Koboko. Kulikuli has not been here for a while. I think maybe he traveled or something. But we still chatted it some days ago. Anyway, thanks to you guys and everybody, even if I don't mention your name, thank you very much for your support. Thanks for power tapping and for liking the live. It has really helped a lot. And thanks to everybody on YouTube and on Facebook. Thanks for your support. Please like the live. Please subscribe on YouTube wherever you're listening. Please go on YouTube and subscribe. We have a lot of things you can gain. We have videos on every platform, but of course you have long forms and other forms on YouTube. So please take advantage of that. All right. And thank everyone for your support. Thanks for the gifts that we've received. Thank you very much for your generosity. God bless you. Real good. The paper I'm looking for, I hope I find it. I'm going to read that tomorrow, and that'll just give us an idea of what Ojukwu said after the war in 1970. All right. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. Before we go, we're going to listen to our anthems, the Nigerian anthem and Yoruba anthem. We'll be here tomorrow at 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. And there are a number of topics I'd like to talk about, but we'll see. We could either pick a topic or discuss the news. But that Yoruba woman thing that FFT mentioned earlier, I think it's something that actually needs to be discussed. I'm glad that Yoruba women, are speaking up for themselves, but we have to keep talking about these things to help. And Yoruba men also, see, in Yoruba land, we see women as mothers. Even, once they go past a particular age, even as young ones, we call them yami. It's not because of their age, it's because of, your perception or your reverence for womanhood. And I'm not saying we have a perfect culture, just to be clear. Before somebody says, oh, but you have also made... The point is, we as a people, right, we have a mindset of respect for the mothers. That's why you hear, the way you see it in the way we talk to our women. And I think we should also, even if we are failing, we should correct it. Right? We should correct it. And when you hear people, it's not an abstract concept. We might talk more about this tomorrow, but it's not it is not an abstract concept of, oh, Yoruba women. It means something. It means something. So we can't just let people disparage them and say all kinds of things, and we just. Meanwhile, there's one thing that even happened last week. Wedding Yoruba, táwọn èèyàn obìnrin wá bínú sí nìyẹn, tí n tó wá jẹ́ Yorùbá náà ń sọ̀rọ̀ bí àrìndìn. Ọlọ́run ṣàánú gbogbo wa ṣá, Ọlọ́run ṣàánú, Ọlọ́run ẹ̀ka bí àrìndìn, Ọlọ́run ẹ̀ka àjẹ́ àrìndìn, because this is not very good, but it is well with us. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. We'll listen to the anthems now, and then we will have the Nigerian anthem and then the Yoruba anthem. Then we'll be here tomorrow to continue our conversation. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. Here's the Nigerian anthem. Enjoy.
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. Our flag shall be a symbol that truth and justice reign. In peace or battle honored, and this we count as gain. To hand unto our children a banner without name. O Lord of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation when no man is oppressed. And so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed. Nigeria may be Iṣẹ́ wa fúnlẹ̀ wa, fún ilẹ̀ ìbí wa. Tàgbéga, tàgbéga, tàgbéga fáyé rí. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé bá ti bẹ̀rù làbọ̀ mọ́. Ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká ṣiṣẹ́, ká jọlá. Ìṣọ̀kan àtòmìnira ní ẹ jẹ́ àtòhun tó dára. Ọmọ òòtà nìyé, bọ́ sípò ẹ̀tọ́ rẹ̀. Ìwọ ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀.
Àwa ni ìmọ́lẹ̀ ògo adúláwọ̀, ìmọ́lẹ̀ wọ̀ ní wọ́kùn lágbára Ọlọ́run. Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́, Nàìjíríà náà ò ní bàjẹ́, ilé wa ọ̀nà wa ò ní bàjẹ́ lágbára Ọlọ́run. Thank you very much for being part of today's session. May God bless and keep you and yours, and may all things work together for your good. I'll see you again tomorrow, 4 p.m. Ife time, West African time. We're going to have a great time together. To have a lovely, lovely evening, and see you tomorrow. Odaro Eshio. God bless you. Thank you, Mr. Abubakar Dungus. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I see you on YouTube. I really appreciate you being here. Eshe. I hope you understand.